Hey guys, this is Ryan Fee for PokerVIP.com, and thank you very much for checking out my second video where I'm going to go in here and break down the hands and ideas that we just talked about. In the last video, we're creating a lot of poker fodder, opportunities to talk about poker strategy. Now what we're going to do is go in and we're going to break all these hands down. We should do it right in order from that video. So we're going to start right now. We're using Poker Tracker, great database program that imports all of our hand history, so we can go back and look at things. And yeah, we're just gonna go through everything one by one. So starting with the first hand, we have Ace Jack suited, and this player Billion, who I've played with a decent amount over the last couple of days when I've been recording a lot of videos, opens to 3 big blinds from middle position, and we're in the big blind with Ace Jack suited. I decided to 3-bet, and yeah, I mean, like I think that both plays are okay. I have noticed that Billion likes to he's a little bit looser on the opening, so that makes me a little bit more likely to want to 3-bet. And even if that maybe wasn't the case, I might just do this anyway, because Ace Jack suited will realize equity really efficiently. Like in a lot of ways, I would way rather in a big blind versus an early position type situation, I would way rather 3-bet Ace Jack suited than Ace Queen offsuit. And it's maybe not quite as good as Ace King, but I mean, there's just like a lot of value to having it being suited. Flushes mean a ton, and you're just that extra bit of equity that you're going to realize in those pots is going to make all the difference. So I think that as to 3-bet this, if he folds, we win right there. That's great. If he calls, I think that the equity, we're going to have really great equity in that called pot. And if he 4-bets big enough, we could just fold. But I mean, even if we 4-bet small, which he probably would, we would because it's suited, we could call and remain profitable in that situation. So I really like 3-betting this hand. Next hand was 5-4. 5-4 was 5-4 was a trip. So okay, so we have me and Kids, who he's a wild card. He'll do anything. And he comes in for the 6x open, which he's been. I don't remember if it was in this video, but I had known that I was privy to that he was doing that, and could have had really anything. I think he in general had like a better-ish hand, but it wasn't super strong by any means. Comes in for the 6x, Billion calls on the button. We have 100 big blinds, and he covers, and I think we're comfortable to call. We're definitely going to have to play much tighter here, given his big size and the call on the button. I think that's maybe a concept that a lot of people miss, is that when there's a call on the button, you actually have to play tighter in the big blind, because they're going to be robbing equity out of that pot. You're not out of position on 2 players. So you got to be careful. But this hand, we're okay to gamble a little bit more. We're playing against a more recreational player who's going to be a little bit wilder, might make some big mistakes, and we have a hand that can really punish a big mistake. So we call. And then the flop, I mean, it's a pretty damn good flop for us. A queen beats us, and the bigger pocket pairs beat us, and ace-4. But relative to what their whole ranges are, there a lot of times they could have 10-9 and ace-jack, or ace-king and jack-10, something like that. And we actually have the best hand. And even if they do have a hand like ace-queen or kings, 5 gives us the best hand, at 4 gives us the best hand, an ace-3, 6 gives us a straight draw, and a diamond gives us a flush draw. So I mean, we have a ton of ways out. We have an escape route if we're behind. So if it went, the pot's 18.5 big blinds right now. If the pot was 9 or 10 big blinds and it went bet 6 call, we would call, or maybe even raise, probably call though. And but as it is, it's a bigger pot again. If it went like bet 12 call, the thing is, a lot of the value from especially the call, is that if we call and then make a 4 or 5 or backdoor flush somehow, is that we can, relative to the amount of money we're putting in the pot, win a big pot. It's a spot where a bigger pot to stack ratio favors us, because the way we make up the chips when we're not good, which we definitely don't have the immediate odds to call this bet versus a bet and a call. We don't have the best hand, and if we do have the best hand, we're gonna unless we improve, they're probably gonna bluff us off of it. But we probably just have generally immediately very poor equity. But our ability to improve to the best hand can then win us a big pot. So it's a situation where we actually have decent implied odds, so it's okay to call. But those implied odds imply that you're winning a big pot with some frequency later. And the problem is that, let's say that we call. So now 42 chips have gone in on the turn. The turn the pot will be 60 big blinds. So conceive. What are the? Okay, they actually had a lot of money behind, but a 45 big blind turn bet would put. I mean, at that point, we would have quite a few chips in there. We would almost be all in, and at that point, we could really only continue on a diamond, a diamond, maybe a 3, but probably just a diamond 4 or 5. And I don't know if there's enough of them. And then we still don't have the best hand. We still have to get there. So I think that, yeah, we were really looking for a bet, maybe around 10 big blinds to be able to overcall. And when it's a bet this big, we just don't have the odds, and we have to fold. So yeah, it's unfortunate. That's sort of one of the risks you take. But I think I think given our pot odds and how much equity we'll realize in other situations, I still like our call, and I would have called it pre-flop, and I think we did a good job with this hand. All right, so number 3 here, we're gonna talk about the pre-flop charts. So yeah, like I was saying, you can download these for free, and yeah, they just tell you what to do, and it's really helpful because you can very sort of narrowly pinpoint what hands you're raising from what spot, and then where the margin is. So here we have King 9 suit. It also talks about like how you value certain hands. So up here, obviously, I may have talked about this in the video, but we're ranking King 9 suited higher than King Jack offsuit, and that says a lot about the value of suited hands. Making a flush and no limit hold'em is a big deal. So that's why you're always going to be ranking. So that's why we're playing 6-7 suited and not Ace 10 offsuit, because those hands are very, very valuable. And when you start to look at the game this way, again, you're pinpointing. You can look at groups of hands and see how they perform in different spots, and you're really pinpointing the value of each hand, because it's not ace is valuable, 10's valuable, ace king valuable, 7-6 how valuable, ace 10 offsuit how valuable. And by doing this and sort of refining your process, going back and thinking about hands, specific hands, maybe hands as part of a group, it really illuminates the value of it. And even here's the thing about 6 max, about no limit in general. It is not a solved game. It is nowhere near solved. A lot of people like to talk about GTO and throw around these words a lot, but I mean it is not there. Doug and a team of humans stomped out the best poker AI algorithms in the world, in their CMU challenge about a year ago. So the robots don't have us yet. So yeah, it's a lot of it is sort of refining that process, and the way that we approach the game is definitely more from the math, the theory is important, but we realize that there's a lot of imperfections, and we want to sort of nail those out and create a strategy that really works for us. And that's how we sort of view things. So by doing a process like this, where you're nailing down, all right, what am I doing pre-flop? So then, because oftentimes players will ask questions about flops, turns, and rivers, when like really you have to pride yourself. Like the most important thing is pre-flop, and I'm sorry for banging on the desk there, but the most important street is pre-flop, and you want to tie everything into that, because oftentimes there is no good flop answer, there is no good turn answer, there is no good river answer, because something was wrong with pre-flop. It's very difficult to do. It takes a lot of experience, and this is how you should start doing it. So these are the raise first in ranges. Those for free, and then here we'll talk about. So this is big blind versus cutoff raise. Obviously, as ace jack suited. That's why I chose to include it in the middle position 3-bet range as well. Positions are obviously very similar. And what this is called is a polarized range, meaning we're raising our good hands for value. So ace queen offsuit, 10s, ace jack suited, things like that, 10s plus. Basically, we're okay taking down the pot pre. We're more than happy to have those hands in the called pots, and then if we get 4-bet, those hands, depending upon the size, can call or raise or do whatever they're going to do. So those are just all positive upside to the raise, and then the hands of the bluffing, the hands we're bluffing with 7-4 suited, 5-4 suited. Those hands are great because we can oftentimes make our opponent fold the best hand pre-flop. They are going to have great equity in those called pots post-flop, so you're going to do well there. And then if you get 4-bet, it's unambiguous, or unless they've been 4-bet or whatever they do, you can just fold 7-4 suited to the raise. You should be good to go. So yeah, this is a very sensible strategy. It's a very efficient strategy. Could you call 5-4 suited to the raise? Yes, but I would argue that it's actually better to 3-bet. You're actually going to, in the long run, win more chips by doing that. And then the hands in green, like I said, those are the calls. It will depend based on the player and the bet size. These are somewhat flexible, but this is a great starting point. Most of these hands will have we'll have the needed equity to call that pre-flop raise. And then let's talk about, let's see, let's grab, what is this button? Okay, so this is if we raise the button in the small blind 3-bets. Again, hands in red, we're raising for value. So for value, or sorry, we're raising, not necessarily for value. Jacks plus ace king, strong enough to raise, get in, button versus small blind. And then the other red hands, the suited ace, suited king, suited queen, those suited connectors. Those hands are strong enough to, or those are bluffs. They have good removal or good equity in the 4-bet pots where your opponent might be calling. Again, obviously a polarized strategy. We have our value bets, we have our bluffs, and we do it to deny our opponent's equity and put them in a tough spot. And we've selected these hands very carefully for sort of a specific reason. And then the hands which are green are just strong enough to call. They're hands which are good enough to call the pre-flop through with, depending upon sizing and this and that. But this is a good template. This is a good sort of framework for what to do and how to do it. The last range we want to go with, this doesn't have a title, but this is our small blind range versus button open, and I think this is important to talk about because when the button opens, it's important. We like to 3-bet our entire range because calling and balancing that range becomes messy because the big blind can overcall and then 3-bet, and the button's range is wide to begin with, so they can really take advantage of you with 3-bets pre-flop and those re-raises. So we think it's best to just pick the hands that we think are good enough to raise it up, and then make it easy on yourself. It's okay. We'll keep moving here. So now we're going to ace queen of clubs. Go. So same thing. Our me and kids has been kind of reckless. He only has 57 big blinds. It opens to 6x. I think we just raise and get it in here and take our chances. Don't expect him to fold much. We could maybe even 3-bets to 19, 20 big blinds. Get a good value pre. Flop the world. Really hard for us to be beat. He maybe has a gut shot or a flush draw, maybe. But neither, flush draw we're going to get in with just about every way anyway. Gut shot we're okay giving him a card. Maybe he tries to turn it into a bluff. And if he has, I don't know, 10-9 off or 3-2 suited, whatever, if we check, we can give him a chance to do something crazy. And given how short the stacks are, if he does have a hand like an ace, or if he decides to get aggressive with a queen, all that money is going to go to the pot no matter what. So by checking, we essentially get all the value that we would get by betting the flop, and then also give him a chance to bluff. So I think we got to check. The turn, more of the same. I think when he double checks, he just really doesn't have it. And again, we can just shove the river when we get there. And maybe he has 9-7 and rivers an 8 and wins the pot. But I think it's worth the gamble to maybe make him bluff or hero call or whatever it is. Keep moving along here. Okay, ace nine. Ace nine is pretty interesting. So we ended up min raising. We meant to make it bigger pre, but we didn't. It's okay. We were 2.5xing, which I think is important because of the rake. You want to bet bigger. And play a little bit tighter at the smaller stakes games to deny that rake taking away from your more marginal hands. And on the flop, I don't think John Rain has really made very many hands here, other than maybe 3 of a kind and a pocket pair pre, but other than that, I see him having a lot of just 2 overcards that we're beating. But then Kid Genius could easily have an 8 or a 5 a decent amount of the time. We could bet the flop. That wouldn't be the worst play. I think checking is okay though. I think because if the turns are 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, we're pretty much good to go. We've made it's possible they also have overcards, and we've also now made straight draws with our 2 overs, and yeah. So I think this functions. If we're gonna pick an ace high or check, I think this is a pretty good one. And then on the turn. On the turn, we'll have other strong hands here, and even our ace highs will be. If we're gonna select, he's betting into 2 people. It's best gonna be hard to be efficient. I'm not worried about bluffs. I think I'm just going to be more straightforward about continuing, and I think that I would probably prefer to have a hand like Ace Jack where I can I have 6 outs if he has a hand like King 10 or something like that. So that's why we folded there. That's okay. Next hand is King 10 of clubs. 10 of clubs. Okay. So raise under the gun, middle position calls. His range here is pocket pairs, and then strong broadways, ace queen, king queen type hands. This board, he'll if he's probably gonna have 6s through 10s every time. and you know he's gonna have a ton of equity here, and then could also potentially float us with a weak hand. I'm not too keen on betting very many hands here. Maybe a straight, maybe a set, but I really like checking a lot of hands here. I like checking a lot of hands here and then check calling and sort of like controlling the size of the pot, reducing the edge the position has by checking and continuing a lot, because you know he essentially, when he checks back the flop, I think he mostly has ace high. I don't know if he's checking like maybe 9s or 10s, but I think he just bets a set, or if he has 2 pair of straight, I think he just bets it every time. So yeah, I think when he checks, our hand still loses to king jack and queen, ace queen, you know, whatever it may be. So yeah, I think we could just check and then turn, bet, and I think we credibly rep a number of hands, and I don't think we're going to face too many raises, and I just think this bet is profitable. So yeah, I think this makes sense. Let's see, sixes. So sixes was kind of interesting. We talked about this. I'm guess somewhat. We could have just as easily called here, really. My gut was really torn, and I think the math really torn, and you know we could easily have a 7. So we're not forced to really call with sixes. Could have a king high flush. We could easily have a queen. I mean, honestly, maybe the best play is to raise. Maybe before call, because he could have me and kids could have had a king. Maybe we should have just called just to see it for the video. That said, the only point, I sort of said this in the video that I want to reinforce, is that the recreational players are weird about the turn. They don't like barreling the turn. They like to bet the flop and then check the turn with good hands that almost certainly bet, and then bet the river. But they'll also bluff it in really weird and sort of whack spots as well. It's a bit of an art. Yeah, art and science. A lot of art though to understanding exactly what they're up to. And yeah, I don't know. I could definitely see just getting something doesn't feel right and making a call there. If we did hear a call, I think potentially be completely fine. Please go away, Windows 7. Yeah, I'll just keep moving here. It's ace 5 of spades. Ace 5. Okay, so where is that at? Here we go. So under the gun raises the 3x, which it will make us play a little bit tighter. Middle position calls. The thing is, when other players enter the pot, you generally tend to play tighter because they have equity. They can make the best hand. They already probably have a good hand. The thing about the button is that you're in position. It's really hard for the blinds to squeeze, even though you're you almost never have it. You might have some medium strength hands, and under the gun raise, next position call is as strong as it gets pre-flop. So it's tough for them to do much of anything. So oftentimes you're going to get to the flop and realize your equity, and then you're going to be in position on everybody. The thing about the button and the big blind, because you either are in, you're in position post-flop, you're in position pre-flop, and or you're in the big blind, you have that chip invested, you have better pot odds. Because you're closing that action, every hand that you have is going to have a little bit more value, have a little bit more equity. So you can just play looser. We would definitely fold this in the cutoff, maybe 3-bet if we thought something funky was going on, but calling is fine. Post flop bet. Okay, we talked about this. About you can raise listen. You flop the nut flush draw, you've already won the hand. You're already getting. You can make the nuts. It's hard. Unless they have a set, you're gonna be flipping or whatever it is. You have great equity. You could raise and get it in. That's just not the highest EV play. Obviously raising is better than folding, but I don't think here it's better than calling. I think you have to call and realize your equity or the value bets you're upping, or it just doesn't really make sense. And then we get check raise. We have the pot odds to call, getting whatever to 1 towards 18. It's going to be 18 chips to win 82. Turn to 2, turn an ace, turn a spade, turn a 6. Got a call, and then a turn. We completely brick, and then Billion puts all the money in, and that's it. Have a fold, easy peasy. Next hand, pocket 10s. Pocket 10s, that's it. Oh, okay, yeah, right. So in this hand, the short stack opened out of the gun, and I think the only thing I want to say real quick about this is that you might get it in often, and then because he's under the gun, I don't know how many hands he's opening if he's really using that short stack, the leverage position, the power position, or sorry, the power of his stack size, that it makes it, I guess, difficult to 3-bet. I don't really think it is, but they other players might perceive it that way, and they might be greedy about opening a lot of hands. But even if you don't get it in with great equity, or if he'll never call, the fact of just making him fold so often pre-flop and then doing decent in the like 4-bet shove pots, I think makes the EV of this hand the highest to just raise and then just get in and deal with the results. And if he does call, obviously he'll do great. I don't think we need to talk. I think I talked about Jack 7. It's just that he's, you know, limping. We raise, make him play a bigger pot, and you know our hand isn't great, but neither is his hand, and he's generally not going to play that good. And you know we're able to out of position. I guess we could talk about post flop. So you know we want to have some strong hands to check. I don't think if we bet the flop we're going to get 3 streets. So I choose, you know, it's basically the worst jack I can have. So I just choose to have, you know, a hand that checks strong twice that he can't be taken advantage of, and then maybe, I don't know, you know, he might have called what they saw. He might have called with a chop. Like, it's really hard to say. All right, let's figure this out. All right, we'll just move this right now. Almost done. And then then we just go for the value and just hope for the hero call, and we got it. So good for us. And then the last hand, maybe the most interesting hand, Jack 9. So I want to pick hands to bet the flop that don't have a home, you know, so that are weak. So a hand like Ace King could check call. A hand like King Queen of Clubs could check call. A hand like 5-6, 7-7x, 4-3, Ace 3. All these hands could check call. A hand like Queen Jack offsuit probably just has to check fold. But a hand like Jack 9 is perfect because on a 6, a 6, 8, 10, 9 Jack, you know, 5 cards, we'll have made a little something, and we could potentially continue to bluff. We probably should. And then, and then you know when it is an 8, when it looks like or a 10, you know, when it becomes harder for us to bluff. Or 6, all of a sudden we are able to bluff. Its over card value is roughly the same. I mean, like, if I make a Jack or a 9, it's going to be similar to me if I had King 10 making a King or a 10. So yeah, making that new top pair is roughly the same value, but then also the straight draw is, like, you know, a possibility. And yeah, so we can bet the flop. The turn, now all of a sudden there's a flush draw. We make it we have 1 spade in our hand. Make it a little bit likely that he has it. Of all the pairs he's going to have on the flop, a 4 is the least likely. He's going to have ace high, 7x, 6x, 5x, a bunch of hands, and you know we could easily have a full house of straight, no pair, whatever. You know we definitely have value bets, and you know we're being selective and we're check folding a lot of our broadways that don't have those backdoor straight type possibilities. On the flop, you know our flop, we're not over bluffing. You know we're very controlled about our bluffs, and yeah, I think betting the spade, especially intending on bluffing spade rivers when you have a spade, makes a lot of sense. And then we get a spade river, we bet, and if he has a 7 or a 5, which is going to be a lot of his range, he's in a tough spot. Yep, he'll have made, you know, a 4 or a flush, but I mean, given our bet size, we're not risking a ton. You know, we're risking close-ish, a little bit more than half pot. So yeah, I think that this bluff will be profitable and is a good hand to use to balance out with our value bets. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video. I hope this is helpful. I hope it changed the way you think about the game. If you do like it, definitely check us out at Upswing Poker, or check out more PokerVIP's free content. I know they have a lot of great stuff, and you know if you're just starting out, it's a great place to start. Good luck, guys, and I hope to see you soon.